So as we consider the Wednesday of Holy Week, it's an interesting thing to consider because we really have to focus more on what other people have done rather than on what Jesus has done. Because the Wednesday during Holy Week has been called one of two things: either Rest Wednesday, it's a time in which Jesus rested as he prepared for the things that would happen on the cross. We don't see a lot from him during that time. Or it's also been referred to as Spy Wednesday. It's the time in which Judas has decided to betray Jesus, and he's made a deal with those who want to see Jesus dead. But I'd like to look at this morning from two different angles, because I think as Christians we can take two different postures with Jesus, and we actually see both postures with two very different individuals as we look at the Wednesday narrative of Holy Week. We see it in Matthew chapter 26, verses 6 through 16. Now when Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came up to him with an alabaster flask of very expensive ointment, and she poured it on his head as he reclined at table. And when the disciples saw it, they were indignant, saying, "Why this waste? For this could have been sold for a large sum and given to the poor." But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, "Why do you trouble the woman? For she has done a beautiful thing to me. For you always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. In pouring this ointment on my body, she has done it to prepare me for burial. Truly I say to you, wherever this gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." Verse 14, Then one of the 12, whose name was Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What will you give me if I deliver him over to you?" And they paid him 30 pieces of silver, and from that moment he sought an opportunity to betray him. Interestingly enough, both this woman who has anointed Jesus with oil, or with ointment rather, and Judas will always be remembered for the thing that they have done. On one side, you have an individual who is willing to give up absolutely everything in order to show how much she loved Jesus. And on the opposite side, you have an individual who was willing to take next to nothing in order to betray Jesus. And friends, sometimes we fall into that posture. Sometimes we hold the posture of Mary here, anointing Jesus with expensive ointment and saying, "I am willing to give you everything." And there are other times in our actions when we betray Jesus for absolutely nothing. Can I encourage you today to examine your own life and to see where you fit into that spectrum, where you have been fitting into that spectrum in your life? That's something that I am doing. I'm considering my own life and the ways in which I'm willing to sacrifice everything for the sake of showing Jesus my love and affection. And then looking at the times critically when I've sinned against him and I say, what have I exchanged you for, Jesus? 30 pieces of silver, that's it? In the expanse of my relationship with you, the eternal God, the Son of God who came in flesh to die for my sins, I'm willing to give you up and that up for 30 pieces of silver? May you go forth today during this midpoint of Holy Week and examine your life and say, what things have I decided to exchange Jesus for? And in what ways am I fostering a relationship of love and affection that shows the world how much I love Jesus? Which do you want to be remembered for? Being more like Mary in the expression of love that she has in anointing him with oil, or seeming like Judas? I know what your answer is, and I hope that you will consider today how you can look more like Mary than Judas on this Holy Week.